Okay, so good morning. Today we are going to discuss about the assessment of impact on water. We have already seen about the assessment of impact on air. In this class, we are covering about the assessment of impact on water. Okay, so coming to the assessment of impact on water, first let us see about what are the guidelines, legislation, standards, and criteria. Legislation, standards, guidelines, and criteria. So when speaking about the legislation, standards, guidelines, and criteria, we have to consider, first of all, we have to consider about the water pollution control ordinances. Water pollution control ordinances, that is first thing. Second one is technical memorandum for effluent discharge into receiving water. Technical memorandum for effluent discharge into receiving water. And there is one more thing, that is about the environmental impact assessment ordinance. Environmental impact assessment ordinance. So these are the three things which we have to cover. Okay, what are the legislation, standards, guidelines, and criteria regarding the assessment of impact on water? First of all, what are the ordinances for control of water pollution? Water pollution control ordinances. Secondly, for discharging effluents into receiving water. Okay, we have a receiving water body, and into this receiving water body, different kinds of effluents may be discharged as part of the project being carried out. Okay, so for the discharge of effluents, there is one specific technical memorandum to be followed. And finally, what is the environmental impact assessment? So what are the pollution control ordinances? I don't think that we need to have a greater discussion because it is already known, right? What are the ordinances, or what are the measures implemented for controlling the pollution of water? But coming to the second one, that is technical memorandum for effluent discharge into receiving water. What does it mean? We have already discussed in environmental engineering 2 regarding the disposal of waste, right? After different treatment, how the sludge is being disposed, or how the wastewater is being disposed. So we know that there are certain limits. There are certain limits for checking whether the disposal to one particular water body is feasible or not. So what is done here is, here sets the discharge limits, for different type of receiving water, sets the discharge limit for different types of receiving water. And final one is environment impact assessment ordinance. What are the impact method? What are the assessment methods? Assessment methods and criteria for environment impact assessment. Okay, what are the assessment methods and what are the criteria for environment impact assessment? So these are the three things to be taken into consideration. What are the ordinance put forward for pollution control of water pollution? Second one is for specifying the discharge, effluent discharge. What is the technical memorandum to be followed? And final one is, what are the environmental impact assessment ordinances available? Okay, now actually the inland water is specified into different groups based on the technical memorandum. So what are the different groups of inland water? We have to see that groups of inland water. Groups of inland water. So the groups of inland water can be said as group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. So these are the four groups. Groups are named as A, B, C, and D. Group A means that it involves potable water supply. Potable water supply is given under Group A. When it comes to Group B, it includes irrigation. Potable water supply is given in Group A. Irrigation is given in Group B. Then pond fish culture in Group C. And finally, in Group D, what is given in Group D is general amenity. So these are the different groups of inland water. Group A is potable water supply. Group B is irrigation. Group C is pond fish culture. And Group D is general amenity. Okay. So we have discussed about the different types of different groups of inland water specified. Okay. Now let us see about the standards for effluent discharge. I told that there should be a technical memorandum for the standard for effluent discharge. Once an effluent is to be discharged into a body, into a water body, there should be some specification regarding the technical standard. So let us come into that. So here in this table, you can see that what is the standard for effluents discharged. Okay, into Group A inland water. We have already seen what are the different groups of water. Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D, where Group A is representing a potable water supply. So into a water body which is classified under Group A, which is possible of supplying water for potable drinking purpose, what should be the standards for effluent discharge? Here you can see that the different chemical characteristics, chemical and physical characteristics of the water is determined in this column, and in these adjacent columns we can see the different flow rate. So depending on the flow rate, depending on whether the flow rate is less than or equal to 10 meter cube per day, and the maximum range being greater than 1000 and less than or equal to 2000 meter cube per day. So varying on the amount of flow occurring or depending on the flow rate, the different physical and chemical characteristics are listed here. The pH is in the range of 6.5 to 8.5. Temperature is in the range of 35. Then color is having a unit. Conductivity, like that, for different physical and chemical characteristics, there are certain effluent discharge standards into Group A inland water sources. Similarly, for other groups of water, this is for Group D. Group D water, we have already seen that Group D water is the water which is used for general amenity purposes. For your convenience, I am repeating it once more. Group A is for potable water supply. Group B is for irrigation. Group C is for pond fish culture. And Group D is for general amenity. So this is the standard for effluents discharged into Group D inland waters. These are the physical and chemical characteristics: pH, temperature, color, suspended solids, BOD, COD, oil, grease, iron, all these things are given here. And here the flow rate is given in meter cube per day. Okay. So that's it about the different discharge standards into different type of water. Now, this is the water quality objective. I'll share this PDF with you so you can read out for yourself. Now, these are some of the potential activities as part of the project, different potential activities which can generate water quality issues. During construction activity, these are the potential activities which may be generating some issues to water quality. Formation of platform to receive TBM. There is no need of reclamation required. There is no dredging. And the only problem is aesthetic effect. The aesthetic effect is due to runoff from the offside. Next one is tunneling activity. What is meant by formation of platform to receive TBM? TBM means tunnel boring machine. Okay. So in order to install a tunnel boring machine, a platform is to be formed. So as a part of this activity during construction, some effects are observed. Next one is tunneling. As part of tunneling, there is a potential increase in the suspended solids. in the receiving waters, the suspended solids will be potentially increasing, and aesthetic effects due to runoff of cooling water, groundwater, etc. will be affected. So that's it. Interceptor structures, stream course diversion, stockpiling, etc. These are the different activities, and the corresponding effects are also mentioned here. You can read for yourself. Next one, water quality monitoring. So water quality monitoring, it is like we have to do this monitoring. The water quality is to be monitored at two different conditions. One is during dry weather condition or dry weather season, and the other one is during normal or wet weather condition. For example, if there are 8 monitoring stations in total, okay, there are 8 monitoring stations in total, in which 6 stations will be monitoring in dry weather condition, while in the other 2 events, they will be carried out after rain. Okay. So next one is sensitive receivers. Depending on the sensitivity of the receiving water body, there are certain characteristics. Okay. Sensitive receivers means in these potentially affected areas, there are different receivers identified. Different receivers are identified depending upon the sensitivity. So the different sensitive receivers include gazetted and non-gazetted bathing beaches, then water intakes, fish culture zones, and sites of ecological values. So when we discuss about the first thing, that is the bathing beaches, in order to remove all the pollutants including the E. coli, bathing beaches, water treatment is to be provided. Treatment is to be provided to water in the bathing beaches in order to remove pollutants including E. coli. Next one is fish culture zone. Before the water is being discharged into this zone, in order to remove the silt and debris, it need to be provided with a screening. Okay, so screening, this will be screened prior to discharge to remove any silt and debris. That is the most important thing to be noted when we are speaking about a fish culture zone. Another one is water recreational areas. Then water gathering grounds. So these are the different things to be noted in mind when we are discussing about the impact on water. Now, let us see about the impact assessment during construction. So formation of platform to launch tunnel boring machine, that is one activity. And as a result of this activity, it is said that there is no need of reclamation, no dredging. The only problem is there will be runoff of the site. So it's an impact of minor magnitude. So what are the mitigation measures? The mitigation measures include, we have to provide sandbank or other measures which can be kept around the perimeter. Monitoring, how this can be monitored as part of routine audit, just visually monitoring. There is no need of any other sophisticated modification because it can be identified by visual inspection itself. Next activity is tunneling. So the mitigation measure for tunneling is there should be a provision of a sedimentation tank in a 800 meter square working area. There should be a sedimentation tank provided. The coarser fragments can be trapped inside grill. So provision of grill to trap the coarse fragments. Then monitoring, it is required to check the frequently the sediment runoff from the sedimentation tank. How frequently the sediments are getting run off from the sedimentation tank, that need to be checked. So that is the monitoring. Next one is interceptor structure. In order to avoid the direct works within the stream courses, assessments need to be undertaken. So the monitoring is as part of routine audit, it need to be visually monitored. Now, these are the construction activities with potential effect to water quality. The different activity and their assessment and monitoring are stream course diversion. In order to maintain the flows, the temporary and permanent land disturbance need to be minimized, and there is no direct impact on flow. The monitoring is visual as part of the routine audit. So this is about the different activities and how they are being monitored. Okay, you can read. I'll be sharing this PDF with you. And we have also to discuss about the impact on other environments also, like air, ecosystem, etc., socio-economic environment, etc. We'll be discussing it in the coming lectures.